I am doing an Instagram live. We will have author Bryce. Come on, let's see. So let's add him. Bryce, let's see where you are. Okay. Oh, hello there. Nice.
Hey,
Hey, how are
how you
you?
doing today?
Good.
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I am good.
I think I said that question twice in the awkward introductions.
That is okay. So why don't we just kind of go through? So I'm Elizabeth Suggs, author, and this here's Bryce. Bryce, do you want to kind of tell us who you are and what you write? Just kind of give us an introduction.
Yeah, sure. I'm Bryce Odom. On my books, it's J. Bryce Odom. I throw the first initial on there. It sounds more professional. But I'm an author from Macon, Georgia. I write kind of an eclectic mix, but mostly I usually describe it as the fantastical. So everything from science fiction to fantasy, magical realism, a ghost story here and there, and so whatever idea catches my attention, uh, that's what I tackle.
Nice. Nice. And so how long have you been writing for? So it sounds like you have a ton of things, but
Yeah, so well, the long answer to that, I suppose, is I've been telling stories since I was a kid.
yeah.
Um, I still remember dictating a story about a lava monster to my granny who had a typewriter, and so she typed it up as I told it. So, I mean, I've been telling stories since a little kid,
Mm-hmm.
and continued doing that through elementary school with stories, middle school, started trying to do more. And then high school, I started trying to really develop that into
Mm-hmm.
something I thought that was worthwhile. And then somewhere in college, I felt like I hit that line between juvenilia and good literature. And so, been writing stories ever since. Stories from middle of college for about 9 years after that is actually my first book, which was a short story collection,
Oh, nice.
Light of All Lights, which takes its name from Dracula, the famous line from Dracula. There are darknesses in the world, and there are lights. You are one of the lights, the light of all lights. Um, but focus mostly on short fiction. I do a lot of short stories, and in the last few years, have finally started getting a little success with short stories getting accepted. I just got one accepted here in the last, about a week ago now, for this year's issue at the Mythic Circle. That one's called Strangers in the Storm, and but I've also self-published a couple novels. A fantasy one, Letters from the Frontier, and a good little detective thriller called Moonlight in the Tombstones.
Nice. So, you've done tons of stuff. Do you find that there's anything that you've really struggled with? Because you just mentioned that you do a lot of short fiction. Is it just because not like, tell me your experience about novels. Is it worth it or not worth it?
So I've got a couple that are unpublished that I still have the ambition to publish them, and I guess I haven't given up on the hope of doing something more than self-publish with them. Um, but I've got to have an idea that's big
Yeah.
enough for them. So those don't come as often as short stories, but
Mhm.
they're a different challenge. They're a fun challenge. I really have enjoyed them. My first one that I wrote, that again was kind of on more a serious level. I did write one juvenilia in high school, but it was right out of college. I wrote kind of a Southern Gothic novel, and that was a really good experience. And maybe one day it will see the light of day. But it took 4 years to
Yeah.
write, so it was a really long process, where I kind of figured out how to write something that long. Um, and setting deadlines
Mhm.
is something I did not do in that. I kind of just slowly moved along with it and kind of went from point A to point B to point C as slowly and as I could, trying to figure things out. But I didn't give myself the kind of the fire underneath me by doing self-imposed deadlines. Um, so that contributed to the length. There was also some giant writer's block there. Probably the first project I really did suffer some major writer's block with, and developed techniques in that journey that help with that. But both of the ones I've self-published were actually through writers' challenges. So there was imposed deadlines that created this whole different bit of creativity. And while I've gotten better at planning because of it, I still have the most fun when I'm just making up as I go, when it's a lot more, all right, well, we know we got to get to point B over there, but what are all the steps to get to point B? And, kind of throwing things from out of the imagination, from out of the past, from my past, from world's past, whatever I could find. And so that kind of frantic, hectic creativity is really fun to me. So both the published novels kind of came from that, having learned the lessons from before.
Yeah, I really like that you touch on planning versus discovery writing, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
definitely also a discovery writer, or a person who, like, a pantser writer, right?
Yeah,
And if you write a novel, I mean, you don't have to do it this way, but if you write a novel, it's so much easier to plot it because there's so many moving parts. You'll forget stuff. The editing process just takes so much
right.
longer. Like, because I know there are some people who I talk to on a regular basis who are like, oh yeah, I can write, I try to write a book every 2 to 3 months, and it's like a novel. And I'm like, oh my
How,
goodness, that's so much.
yeah, yeah, people who
But,
can pump a
mm,
novel out like it's nothing. I mean,
yeah,
I've had short stories that took a year. So I mean, um, that's just unimaginable that you can do that
yeah.
regularly.
It's
The
discipline.
Yeah, it's discipline, which I don't have.
And you know what?
um,
That's okay. I feel like there's writers of every different kinds. You don't have to be doing a schedule to be a good author, you know? Like, there's
yeah,
all different kinds.
no, I agree with that, um, and also I think not forcing yourself into planning boxes, for me anyway, helps a lot with creativity, because you're really open to the possibilities that you didn't think of or didn't know were out there when you
Yeah.
started. Um, Now sometimes planning is really good, like Moonlight and the Tombstones was from, if you, I don't know if you recall it, but Amazon had that serialized story
Yeah.
platform, Kindle Vella. And last year they were doing a contest, and
Oh,
I'm a school teacher as my day job. So once students come back, it was right at the beginning of the school year.
mhm.
Students were coming back like 2 days later, and I don't know if you know teachers,
Yeah,
but
I do.
once the kids come back, you're like next 2 months are just wiped out.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I have basically 6 days before that happens.
Oh,
So
goodness.
I had to plan, but I'm not overly detailed in planning. So I just
Yeah.
knew what each chapter was basically going to be in terms
Hmm.
of plot points. Some of that got thrown out. Most of it stayed intact. But it was a very crazy condensed hecticness to do
Hmm.
that. But that's really contrasted with the other novel, which was an unofficial NaNoWriMo, National Novel
Oh.
Writing Month.
Hmm.
Because as a school teacher in November, 50,000 words in a month is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I did kind of an altered one, and that's what this book became.
Hmm.
But that was the reverse of Moonlight and the Tombstones, where I started a plan and it worked. This one, I started with a plan and realized within 2 days, this whole thing needed to be thrown out. But I was already in it, and so it really was kind of Tolkien's idea that as he wrote Lord of the Rings, it was all being uncovered. It already happened. It
Yeah.
was history that he was just discovering. It was the word you used earlier, and that's what that process really ended up being. But it also came in for a very good landing. I hit the conclusion came out, I thought, really good on the final, and hit the end of that by the final day, and so that's one reason I just
Mhm.
hate over planning. It's okay to
Yeah.
plan, but um, it's a lot more fun just to see what opportunities come to you
Hmm.
rather than that you force the round peg into the square hole.
No, I totally see that. And yeah, and I have tried to do plotting more as I've like tried to develop certain novels. It just makes it a
Mm-hmm.
lot easier. But there is that joy in just being like, well, I guess we're gonna see what happens and see what this scene does. Hopefully it doesn't mess everything up. Because I've seen some authors, they'll plot and plot and plot and plot, and you can get that reverse where you're only plotting and you're never actually writing anything. So
Right.
there is like a balance, right? I think, to do
Yeah.
it. But you know what, do what you need to do what like inspires you, right? I think that's the
Yeah.
most important thing. And tell
And
me. Oh yeah, sorry, go on. No, it's
I was gonna say,
okay, go
and
on.
I think you hit a nail on the head there. That one of the key things, any advice we give to new folks, right, is you have to start, right?
Yeah.
You can get caught up in your idea and then never start typing
Hmm.
or start writing in a notebook or whatever, and at some point you got to just jump in.
Exactly. Well, it's that tried and true saying, you can't edit a blank page.
Right.
So it doesn't matter
Exactly.
how terrible that first draft is. Some of my drafts, like sometimes I'm very proud of a first draft, but a lot of times I write a first draft and it's garbage. And that's okay. I'm a good editor. And so, right, then you just do it and over. Persistence is key.
Yep, persistence key, I'm not as good an editor. I have the horrible,
We all have our
oh, I'm so
strengths, don't
proud of
worry.
what I wrote, and so I got to get
Yeah.
other people.
Mhm. No, and that's the thing though, is like, yeah, even if you're a good editor, or you're really confident in your abilities, you always need someone else to look at it.
Oh,
Like you always just need a second opinion, because you're gonna look at your story 1,000 times. Hello, everyone. And there's gonna be certain things you just won't see after a while. And you'll just kind of like be like, oh, that's okay. Or you won't even, register it's bad. And then someone else reads it and goes, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, okay. Well, maybe we should fix this. So, now, tell
um,
me your
yeah,
uh, tell me your inspiration. So, Dracula, right? Are there an inspiration to your stories or authors you really idolize?
yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, for me, big inspirations include talking about world building. That whole the
Yeah.
nation notion of discovering Tolkien, of course, is a huge influence for me. In fact, that bookshelf right there is all Tolkien right there.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yes.
so he's a huge influence for me. Kind of very 180 degrees other end of the spectrum is a guy named Michael Shera who wrote. Is most famous for two books: The Killer Angels, which the big gigantic 4 hour movie Gettysburg is based off of,
Oh, interesting.
and the Kevin
Okay.
Costner and Kevin Costner's baseball film For Love of the
Hmm.
Game is based off his novel, and I really love his work. And I don't know why he and I just connected there as I read those books. Um, but it showed me you could write really creatively, really imaginatively, because he wrote both serious literature but also science fiction. Um, but you didn't have to be big with giant florid $10 vocabulary words. You could be so that
Yeah.
meant I could take Tolkien's influence but it helped me mean that I wasn't trying to imitate Tolkien.
Yeah.
Uh, and so that was so those two combined have an interesting alchemy there.
No, yeah, and I like how you touch on it. So sometimes I've heard writers, they don't really want to read in their genre because they don't want to like copy anyone, but you're
Mm,
not copying, you're just getting inspiration, or you're at least seeing what's popular. And it's really important to be, aware of those popular things, right? So even if you don't choose them, you can still tell a reader like, oh, I chose not to do this because of this reason. It's
right.
research is the most important thing, and you should always read in your genre. You should always find authors you really love. Like
Mm.
reading is so important, and that's why I really like doing these things with other authors who, I want, and I think it's really important that like because we've connected now, I can read your stuff and I can get inspiration and then we can kind of spread that out, the inspiration there. But is there any final things you'd like to say to everyone like that are watching or who are watching? Is there a website or anything like that?
Yeah, so anytime I have a book vendor space, I always say I have something for everybody, and that's mostly true. Between short stories and novels, I probably have something that you're interested in. You can find me at jbryceodom.com or on my social medias. There's jbryceodom at Facebook or jbryceodom_author on both Instagram and YouTube. And though I'm trying to get YouTube channel back to being something I update regularly,
Yeah.
but so I'm out there for folks to look at and happy to talk about my books or read other folks' books. In fact, I actually just read your short story in Collective Chaos, and I enjoyed
Oh,
the twist ending there.
nice.
So also to everyone listening, buy her collection Collective Chaos, so you can check out her story.
Well, I really appreciate that. Yeah, Collective Chaos is our most recent book published. And so it's through Collective Tales Publishing, which I'm a co-owner of. My friend Jonathan, I think, is watching the feed now too, who's also on. And we do submissions all the time. So, if you have something that you want to submit, like feel free. Like we're about to open up new submissions for like a new anthology. I believe we're still debating on the title, but I believe Collective Dread. It's kind of like that psychological, like dark. But so once we have that cemented, and I'll make sure that you can have a chance to submit, and we'll make sure link so that I can post up on the post, make sure everything's there. Anyone who's interested in doing an author live with me, please feel free to message. Bryce, I really enjoyed talking with you, and I'd love to talk with you again. So we'll have to set something up. But yeah,
Yeah,
thank you
me
so
too.
much.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'll talk to you later.
Yep,
Bye.
have a good day.
You too. Thank you.